Welcome everybody to the Rally Cry podcast. My name is Angel.
And my name is Tyler.
And you guys are here because you want to redirect your life, grow, and heal at the same time. I am absolutely grateful for you guys here today wanting to work on yourself, because that is actually the first step of growth, of showing up. It doesn't matter how long it is for, even for 5 minutes. That's all it takes to start somewhere and become different going on forward. That's what you call progress, baby.
Progress. Take that first step. Don't ever be afraid. If you are afraid, if you are nervous and you are anxious, just take that first step. Every step after that, you're working your way through it.
Yes. So whatever podcast platform you guys are on, make sure you give us a follow. Make sure you give us a review so we know that we're doing something right for the world. And actually, you guys don't understand how much it actually helps us out when you guys leave a review. So please do so. Give your thoughts. And, we could grow together as a team. We are also on Instagram on the rallycry.podcast. You can also follow us there where we have our clips. And we just try to be creative, and you guys can be engaging with us. So, Tyler, we got something very interesting today.
Yeah, it's feeling like a pretty sticky situation.
Very sticky.
Sticky situation. A lot of clinging.
Yes.
A lot of appealing.
Running away, potentially.
Running away, but still being clung together.
Yes, in a way where we might not even know where it's actually coming from. So today, we're going to be talking about 3 attachment styles, right? We don't understand how detrimental attachment can be for us, right?
Yep.
And so you may have heard of it, but we're going to make sure we talk about it together, right? So isn't there ever a time where you're in a relationship and your partner feels distant and it's hard to connect with them sometimes, right?
Yeah, especially like when they're going through something, you know?
Yeah.
You never know what they're going through.
Exactly. You don't even know, and you think that in that relationship, they should be able to tell you all the time.
Automatically, like you expect that.
Right, and you think it's like their due diligence to do so, and then you hold it against them, and then it goes into another argument because they weren't opening up when you wanted them to open up, and it's just this whole like back and forth, and then it was just like trying to figure out one thing. Now you created something that was nothing.
A whole bunch of tit for tats that, like, you lose sight of the true goal. Now we're moving the focus point, and now it's rather than presenting, now you're reacting. Both parties are reacting, and you won't really get a lot done when both are reacting, especially coming from such a defensive standpoint.
Exactly. So it's just to a point where, you feel like your partner may be nagging you, and then you feel like you need space after that. And then we think that when we're giving our partner space, or our partner is giving us space, they don't love us. But that is also a way of them giving love, because they're taking their time. And if you're not in a relationship, you might feel that you're single and you're trying to connect with someone, and for some reason they ghost you, and you're just like, I thought we had something going, but
right. And then sometimes, like, communication would be great to hear, especially when things are just falling off. However, I think we delude ourselves by convincing ourselves, like, nah, that can't be. When there are cues that we see that this doesn't feel like what it used to be, doesn't seem like this is where originally where we intended it for it to go, but now it's like we barely talk. And should I take that as a sign like we're not cool anymore, or should I take that as a sign like we just grew apart? I
agree. I think what happens is that we're such in a polarizing generation that we do that more than trying to connect with one another. So it's just a matter of trying to find that solution. So we're going to try to talk about where does these attachment styles come from, and let's be aware of it first before we try to figure out if we have an attachment style. Yeah. So if you guys are listening, we're going to talk about these attachment styles, which the 3 that I've mentioned, I'm going to mention is anxious, there's avoidant, and there's disorganized. And so a long time ago.
Ooh, story time.
Well, there is a British psychologist named John Bowlby, if I'm saying that right, which discovered the attachment styles, and he was doing his research with kids and how typically around 1 year old to 3-year-old is when you start inhabiting these types of attachment styles. And a lot of times it comes from parenting. From our previous video, we were talking about how parenting can be detrimental to our generation. And what you know for yourself is important, because we don't just transfer genetics. We transfer over a whole bunch of other things like traumas, and we project it so much we don't realize that they inhibit those things, they inhabit those things, I mean. So in those early ages that John has did the research, he's seen that in his early stages, that a lot of those attachment styles are just learned behavior. And he found that the attachment was more characterized by a clear behavioral and motivation patterns. So think about it, where if I have a habit of doing something, it's going to project onto our children. And with that being said, we need to make sure that we have a healthy lifestyle. We have a more of a stable environment for our kids, because they see this as this is what life is. And you guys might be listening and trying to say, like, okay, well, what does this have to do with me having an attachment style right now?
Right. You'll find out now. Coming soon.
The matter of understanding your attachment style is understanding childhood traumas and understanding where it comes from. A lot of times our traumas come from our parents. And, for example, when I was a kid, my mom was very scared of needles. And I don't like needles myself, because of how my mom projected me on how it should be. I used to always cry all the time when I see a needle, and I didn't even got the shot yet when I go to the doctors. So, me knowing that made me understand more on why I was scared of needles. It wasn't something that I got from myself, and it was just something I naturally just got scared of. So when we try to do our understanding of our traumas and our attachment styles, of where we come from making relationships, because when we're younger, our first relationship is with our mother and then our father. If we have a bad relationship with them, how do you think that's going to really affect us with other relationships?
Yeah, and I think that, like, when it comes to our other relationships, we have to understand that the people we surround ourselves with as we get older, we start mirroring those people. And our first stage of being able to mirror, it comes from our parents. And one thing I learned in class, right, during even the stages of when we're ready to get potty trained, there's such a thing called an anal personality that could potentially be developed. So, like, if you're being potty trained and let's say you're nervous and your parents are expecting you to just do it there, and they're just, like, ridiculing you, like, you have to be there at all times, like, do this, do that, and they always seem like things have to be organized, and if it's not organized, everything falls apart. So this is where potential OCD disorders could come into play, and they start feeling like their world will fall apart if they don't have it like this exactly. And with those anal personalities, requires organization. They're uptight, they're stubborn, they're arrogant because they're like, it has to be this way. And there could be some narcissism that comes within that. And even when we're getting potty trained, if our parents aren't being considerate, mindful, and also being generous, because at times we may not be able to maintain our emotions. We are human. However, we have to maintain them and positively reframe them for our child. We have to let our child see how we can adapt and also look at things in a better light. Because if something bad happens, like, even there was a video that I saw not that long ago, and a dog was worried about their owner, and they had a setup like where it was like kid's toy, whatever, and the dog pressed worried. You know what I mean? He's like, and the mom was like, "Why are you worried? Worried, mom, hurt." And it just kept it real simple. So if the dog can notice, and even something simple as a cough is alarming to that, imagine how a child may view themselves with having the extra care to themselves to be that mindful. Okay, like, I know I'm coughing. Why am I coughing? Am I in a bad area? Did I eat something bad? Is my throat dry? Do I need to hydrate? These responses to yourself and even to other people, that's important. And how patient you are is what matters. Because if you're impatient and you become impulsive or erratic and like you just kind of fall all over the place, this is where unorganized starts to come in. Because you go 0 to 100 every time. People are gonna just know you for being temperamental. Because you're just all over the place, and now it's like, how do you manage it? Because if you're just quick to go like this, then it's like, I can't even trust you to be able to enjoy something for a long term. Now, as a friend, a parent, or a caregiver, I would basically wants to isolate you, because now, like, if any type of exposure to anything could provoke you, now how am I going to feel trying to invite you if I'm a friend, like trying to invite you somewhere where I want you to be with my family and things like that. That plays into part, and it also shows like how we categorize our acquaintances, our friends, our best friends, people we try to say, oh yeah, that's my cousin, but that's really not. Like, you know
I remember
what I mean?
that.
So like,
that's my brother from another mother.
I'm Batman. So it's like, so when we start to categorize, it is not to be rude. It's just the idea, like, you know, not everybody can fit that part. Not everybody can play that role.
Right. And when you were mentioning all those traits of being all over the place, that actually has to do with the attachment style of being disorganized. And I like to be a little vulnerable with you guys. And so when I was younger and me trying to figure out my childhood traumas, I believe for myself, I was very disorganized. That was my attachment style. And I'm still detaching from that attachment because these kinds of work, it doesn't happen overnight. And then sometimes there's like trial and error where we're trying to work on ourselves. And then we end up doing something again. It's like, oh, okay, well, now I'm spotting it. And I need you got to stop.
Spot it,
spot it.
Wait, no.
You got to spot it, stop
it, and then swap it.
Yep. So now that I spot it, I got to swap it for something else. Because one thing for sure, when we're trying to get rid of certain habits that are old, it's not the matter of removing them. It's the matter of replacing them. Because, you know, now there's space for something. You got to fill that in for something a lot more healthier. Yeah. Being productive is one thing to, getting into those habits. So I think when you're disorganized, you're very emotional. You feel like there's a lot of trauma and you don't even know where it's coming from. But obviously there's something there. And you're often very triggered easily. Like anything gets you upset. Somebody cuts you off in the middle of traffic and you just want to curse them out and stick out your middle finger out the window because you're just so emotionally floored for what they did. But you shouldn't take everything personal. And you just have this very aggressive behavior. And then with so much aggression, you don't have space to empathize for other people because you're so caught up with yourself, you can't even have a sustainable relationship because of how unorganized you are.
You're sympathizing your way into justifying like why you feel like this. And the more that you only sympathize with yourself and not try to sympathize with the situation and the other person involved or other people involved, now you're taken away from them. Now you're not even letting their thought process flurry out, because if you can't acknowledge their entire identity and you're just so focused on yourself, you're not going to be able to understand what's going on and who's it happening to, and where you could have taken accountability, or at least where do you feel attacked, and like what could have made you feel better. Because at the end of the day, like, let's say somebody scratches your car. Now both you guys are out of the car and you come out mad, but you see how anxious this person is. Like, they're shaking and they clearly aren't emotionally capable of being ridiculed in that moment. So you take that time, those couple seconds, to be patient and be like, all right, you know what? Let me ask if they're okay. Let me ask, like, you know, where they're coming from, like what happened. Let me see what their point of view is like, because I can only demonstrate from my point of view. I can only understand that you hit my car and I don't like that. Now that's money. Now I'm upset. Now my life was in danger. Now I'm protective of myself. All these things are happening. But then, and only but then, if I was just take that time to just swallow that up real quick, because I know I can protect myself. I know I can take care of myself. What about this person? I know what they're like. And just by a look, an eye's glance, through body language, I can see that they're way more unorganized than I am. You know, I was so organized enough to process that I'm feeling all of this. Now I'm done with empathizing. I just want to sympathize with the fact that I'm not okay. I don't like what happened. You know what I mean? So I think even attachment styles like that, they go into how we handle situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because that is so true. Like, the attachment on how we feel or what things that made us feel is what we call triggers. And it's a valid point that you bring that up, because we can't let go of the traumas that bonded us to who we are. And that's when we get into relationships and we trauma bomb someone. Like, we hear love bombing, but what about trauma bombing?
Trauma bombing and then trauma bonding.
That
then,
too.
like, how people try to just create a bond off of trauma.
Yeah.
So being able to relate to things and be like, oh my gosh, you went through that too. Like, that's so crazy. Why does life got to be like this? Oh, like,
love me for your trauma.
I think you're my soulmate. You're my twin flame. Like, let's just rekindle this old spark that used to live in the past life from back when we were 60 in the 1800s and all this other nonsense that don't make sense, like bananas and trigonometry. Like,
literally twin flame, because it's just fire with fire, and you're just burning a whole forest, and you already know what happens with a forest going on fire. It goes into a wildfire, and then everybody is getting into this detrimental situation where everybody around you is hitting with that smoke, and now no one wants to be around you because of how unhealthy you are. Look at the air quality over here. Hey, I don't know where you guys are at right now listening to us, but over here on the East Coast, like we're in Massachusetts, and the air quality has been disgusting. Like, I'm outside and I'm like, give me a bottle of water. Please. I can't breathe.
No, and the thing is, I like how you bring up, like, you know, because it's twin flames, so you got two people burning, and it's like that burning passion is so strong. You can't even, it's the flame is so strong, you can't even realize everybody else that's burning around you. And because that burning passion, you think like, oh, it's so strong that maybe I'm just outgrowing these people. That's not the case. You're with a trauma bond on top of that, you're in a bond more because you're looking for safety. You're looking for someone to make you feel secure and make you feel like you're not alone. Because when we all go through things and situations that in life where it could weaken us and demoralize us, we do get a little bit complacent, because now it's like, oh, like, I just feel like crap. I don't want to really do anything. And now, like, you're doing the opposite of what you should be doing. You're doing the opposite of, like, when you are feeling down, you should go out, try to engage, try to get your mind off things, be productive, because you're only convincing yourself, so, all right, let me not do anything. Let me just dwell in this feeling more just because I don't feel good. So let me not feel good even more. You know what I mean? So with that burning passion, it swallows you. And just like how flames, they get stronger and they eat at you and they literally destroy and eat everything that's within around their proximity. Like if it's an electrical fire, it's a lot harder to put out an electrical fire. It's harder to put out electrical fire. And imagine a wildfire, being in the forest, being in the woods, and you're trying to put out a tree that's burning from the inside. You can't just use water. You can't just use a fire extinguisher. Like, there's methods for this, and that's why, like, with a twin flame, that thing could go out it could sway into so many different directions that flame can only just turn into a fire tornado after that, and then you just become a phoenix that's ready to die.
Yeah, the whole thing is you gotta be ready so you don't have to get ready. So before you go in. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Little mama.
Thank this man.
So it's just a matter of when you were talking about that, it made me think about how, like, you don't really want to go out, and that's actually the thing you should do. Get out of your comfort zone, is because the other attachment style is being avoidant. So that's when you're emotionally distant, and that's when people, they just don't understand me, or no one understands me. You're emotionally distant.
Shrug their shoulders, be like,
I guess what, you know
it's not
what?
that big of a deal.
I'm just gonna have to be on my own on this one. However, they could be very independent, but that's when you isolate yourselves. Like, there's a balance in life, and then they don't depend on their partner, which is great. However, when you're in a relationship, you guys have to be very connected with one another and be able to express each other's emotions so that you guys are both on the same page. And hey, this is how I feel. Let me hear how you feel. And they do that because they just want to avoid conflict, because a lot of times when we try to express our feelings, the other person might not feel as understandable. And so they're just avoiding the whole what if.
Yeah, and I like how you bring that up too, because avoiding the what if, and also more importantly, just avoiding conflict. And I say just avoiding conflict because there's so much that goes around it that even avoidant goes into anxiousness. It goes into anxiousness as well, because if someone is avoiding conflict, they're anxious about like what somebody else is going to say. Then they're anxious about, like, obviously, like, their image to other people, and then their image within themselves, and how their significant other, let's say, is justifying certain things because that's their significant other, and they're so caring about them that they trust and believe and hope. Trust me, and hope that, this is going to change, it's going to turn over, it won't be like this forever. And then it's like, what if that's not the case? What if you coddling them, what if you being too nice to them is actually encouraging that anxiousness? It's encouraging them to be avoidant, because if they're avoiding conflict, then let's say they're not tough enough, and not saying that everybody has to be tough, but if you're not disciplined enough to, let's say, handle your responsibilities, or when you say you're going to do something but you lie to yourself, and now you're avoiding that conflict because you have to confront yourself, like, why did I lie to myself? And then when you also announce it, whether it's to a friend or a significant other, now they're going to question you and be like, you said you're going to do this. I don't want to, attack you, or I don't want to come off as if I'm trying to keep tabs on you for you. However, you said you were going to do this, and I just wanted to see, like, if you're doing okay. Now, because they're avoiding, they're like, oh, I'm fine. Like, nothing to worry about. It's cool. Whatever. That doesn't do anything for them. And it only makes you more worried, and then it puts your partner or your friends in distress, like, what am I going to do? I can't control their life, and I also don't want to leave them because that's my friend. I care about them. I love them. Who am I if I leave their life? What are they going to do without me? Now there's no boundaries. Now here comes where they're disorganized, and there's lack of security, so now they have to feel like they have to be responsible for them. So, like, all these attachment styles coming from our childhood, now we end up becoming the parent because we end up fixing the childhood trauma for them. We're trying to fix it for them. And that just doesn't work.
I hope you guys are really listening, and if you had to rewind a little bit, matter of fact, just do it just to hear what Tyler just said, because that is so resonating with me. Like, I had experiences to where I can see some of the trauma that certain people went through, and not to say I have some of my own, but when you're trying to figure your own trauma out, you can see the potentiality of the other people's trauma.
Yeah,
and it's just like unfortunate because you can't be the bigger person all the time, especially when you're in a relationship. When you're trying to build something like that, and one person is going through a lot of traumas, a lot of triggers, you can't always help them on what they can do with that trauma because that's their responsibility. You can't be responsible for other people's traumas because you got something that you got to clear out yourself. There's things that you got to let go. So it's a matter of, you can guide them. However, you can't just tell them what they could do because then it sounds like you're trying to control them or expect them to do certain things. Or you think it's easier said than done and all. It's like, okay, yeah, that's why in relationships it's so bittersweet sometimes because you want to help them, and when you're in a relationship, especially if you're a man, we're problem solvers and we just want to do the best so that the person that we're with is not hurting. That's all that we want. However, we can only do so much because a lot of times you already know when we say some things to someone we're trying to help, if it's a significant other, if it's a friend, it's a family member, and they just don't listen. And it's to a point where it's like sometimes people have to hear things from someone else or from another perspective that break it down to make the same thing that you're telling them. Because a lot of times you might not be that person in their life that has to tell them it. It has to be someone else. And that's why we come into situations like, hey, I literally said the same thing. How come you didn't listen to me? And they're saying the same thing, and you listen to them. And it's just like, well, we're not responsible to help them all the time because it then seems like we're controlling them or expecting them, like I said. And when you were talking about, like, being anxious about ourselves and relationships and the what ifs, it reminds me of Jose. You know Jose?
Yep.
He was telling me, and it was just the other day, and I appreciate him for this because he was like, what happens is when we're anxious, it's the matter of that we have no control of the future. So we're very anxious of it. However, when the first thing we can do is control ourselves and how we can think for the moment. And when we could think for ourselves in that moment, what we can do right now, what we're in control of right now, we become less anxious. Because we can never be scared of something we can't physically see. Because that's what being scared is. Like, if I see a shark, now I'm scared because I'm going to die. So I love how you bring that up, and I'm able to bring that in. And it's just a matter of valuing things and the beliefs that come with it. Because it was also like how we were watching a clip, and it was talking about, instead of talking about rules, we need to talk about values.
Yep. And I was just about to say that. I was just about to bring it up because, like,
bring it up.
We're so caught up in, like, and this is how society has taught us, so it's not even, like, really our fault. You know what I mean? So with society, like, they have us in school learning how to listen to people and learning rules. And, like, yeah, there are non-negotiables that, like, we all need a foundation of values that uphold our foundation. However, if we're so caught up in learning what not to do, why do you think there are people that still do it? We're told not to kill people, we're told not to rape, but people still do it. But the thing is, the thing is, if we were to change that and give people a choice, because at the end of the day, it's freedom of speech, and we also have the right to choose. We have the right to decide. So if we're given an option, now we're understanding the values, because if we say yes to this option, we're saying no to this, and that's obvious. But think about what you're saying no to, because like somebody close to me said, like, if you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to the other. So if you're saying yes that you want to break night and stay up because you want to like make this release for these sneakers, and you got to wait till like 2 a.m, but then you got to be up at 6 a.m. to be at work, not get up and get ready for it. You have to be at work by 6. You're saying no to being to work on time. So you can't be upset at what happens and like, oh, I'm tired.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to call out. It's just another day. I got the PTO for it. And it's like, why waste your PTO for that? Why even get to the point where you have to make yourself look bad? Because at the end of the day, that's a fear in our mind to a job that we have to show up for because we're working for somebody, unfortunately. We have to commit. And when we don't show up and we call out, especially when it's last minute, and they may not know how minuscule the reason is, however, it just looks bad. And now when you go into work, it seems like, oh, your manager got it out for you. They're adding more pressure on you. However, maybe you asked for that yourself, because maybe the job was strictly clear. We can't really afford last-minute call-outs. So saying yes and no, if we understand our values and how we manage things and understand, like, if we do this, this will happen. If anything, we can choose to do this. This outcome may be different, but it may be more favorable long term. So one answer, both answers have a short and long term finish that we have to be mindful for, because either may be favorable for us, but that doesn't mean that's going to respect where we're at.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So yeah, guys, those are the attachment styles. Which one do you think you have? Like I said, I'm still detaching from being disorganized, and trying to make sure that I'm more organized with my emotions and be able to express myself.
I believe that I'm still detaching from the anxious attachment style, because as far as like, I remember 2-3 years ago lacking being able to set personal boundaries, and as Angel said earlier, when we make other people's situations or problems our situations, or vice versa, like that's a lack of personal boundaries, and that's extremely important because you don't want to suffer an emotional burnout, and that's a no-no. And also with highly sensitive, think about how, as it says in itself, sensitive you would be to certain information, that you're just always on defense mode, or you're always ready to like, oh my gosh, like how does that corrupt your world? Because at some point you don't feel like your world is stable. You don't feel like your world is strong enough to take any type of information that could possibly attack you, attack your identity, anything like that, or even attack the people around you. So as we learn more about our attachment styles, you're also learning about how you can fix yourself. You're the cure.
Absolutely. You got to make sure you do things that help you heal in order to find the cure. So remember, guys, you got to work on yourself first before you try to work with someone else. And the matter of is going back in time and see where it came from in the first place, working on your foundation so then you can build actually with someone. So we really appreciate you guys. If you like this episode or any of the other episodes we have done, make sure you guys give us a review. Make sure you guys give that. And, I really appreciate this. And I think we got a quick announcement to make. So this is a special. If you guys watched us and listened to us for this long, we got a little a treat for you guys. So here it is, Tyler.
Okay, so guys, we all know it's been a year and a half with the Rally Cry, and I want to announce I'm taking my talents down south. I got a business trip. Oh baby, oh damn. And I'm gonna be in Texas. I'm gonna be in Texas and doing a business trip, and gonna be creating my identity more, building a bigger network, and this doesn't stop the Rally Cry. We're expanding our network, and we're bringing community together. So while Angel's over here, I'm also pulling the South to the North, so we can do this together, because North and South, East and West, either way, it's different time zone, we're still bringing the community together. And it was a tough decision. However, I think that there's going to be bigger steps coming here on out, and I think this is just another step, a part of the process that's going to make us all grow together, understand each other better, and become one together a lot better.
Yep. And as hard as it almost feels for me, I always tell Tyler, I'm always here. We're doing this together. And as he's making the step forward, we're trying to make sure that we do a step forward altogether. So remember, it's always about showing up and just giving it a try, because you want to tell yourself, why not?
Yep, and if there's a will, there's a way. Mm-hmm. And because of that way, take that leap of faith, ladies and gentlemen. It's always going to be there.
Yes. So, yeah, guys, we appreciate you guys for listening. Until next time, y'all be easy.
And y'all be breezy.
Peace.